The hashtag is CitizenXtra on Twitter. We'll be looking at the Wananchi's views in several places in the country shortly. We're talking about what is the way forward now, and especially as regards IEBC. First, let's take a look at an immediate reaction after the judgment was read yesterday, the detailed judgment at the Supreme Court. An immediate reaction from the National Super Alliance.
Proven that within the time stipulated for filing the petition and arguing the petition and coming out with a decision or a determination can be done. But we would agree with the sentiments that this law in relation to petitions should be looked at. But more important question is not just the victory that we won. And I think this victory is a victory for the people of Kenya. It expresses the sovereignty of the people of Kenya, that them, through Article 140 of the Constitution, made it possible for any qualified party to challenge a presidential election, which must be held in accordance with the Constitution. But the big question which has come out from this judgment is that the court has found, with a majority decision of 4 judges, that there was systemic and systematic violations of the law within the IEBC. And what they are saying is that the IEBC as an institution has a problem, and it committed illegalities and irregularities which made it possible for this decision to be rendered. Some of those illegalities were clear violations of the law, especially in the transmission of the results. And in the very, very well-articulated judgment of the majority, a lot of questions were posed as to how some of these forms 34A and 34B, and even the final form 34C, which was used to declare the results, that all those forms were either forgeries. It was put in a rhetorical way, but they were either forgeries or they were not genuine forms which had been printed as required with this required security features.
I would like to thank the Kenyan judiciary for this historic ruling, because the ruling was done 20 days ago, but today they have given a very comprehensive reasons supporting that ruling. As I said at the time when the ruling was made, it is historic for the African continent. We had an opportunity to meet with leaders of an association of African judges yesterday, and they all concurred with us that it is a beginning of a new era on the African continent. This is a major challenge to our country. And as I said last night, that the era of electoral autocracy must end in our country. In other words, that the people's vote must count. That Kenyans who have turned out to vote must know that their votes are eventually counted.
Right, and worth to mention is that Senator Orengo went ahead to say there should be prosecutions in IEBC, investigations that will lead to prosecutions in IEBC. If the DPP is not going to take them up, they will institute private prosecutions. And he went on to say, if the election is not held within 60 days, then according to their interpretation, that President Uhuru Kenyatta will not be constitutionally empowered. Kaluma was there, of course, last night. And they're saying after that, you should have a caretaker president if the election will not be held by then. First, I'll get Honorable Ishungwa's response to what, because we are yet to see Jubilee officially responding to the detailed judgment. What can be your initial response to what was said yesterday?
Let me say, Hussein, of course, Jubilee as a political party will give their detailed response to the judgment. But in my own view, I'll give you my own personal views and my opinion. One, I do appreciate what Orengo is saying, that if, and I share those sentiments to the letter. One, that if there are people who are culpable within IEBC, IEBC must take action. And therefore, I would be looking at instances, because they're the ones who were the petitioners in this case, they're the ones who had evidence as to anybody who would have contravened the law or perpetuated any irregularities within the elections. And therefore, that's what I'm saying. Let us not politicize this issue. Let us look at who was the presiding officer at Station A, who was the returning officer at Station B, but not wholesomely blaming IEBC as an institution. Because the other thing that you get from the judgment yesterday is that no criminal culpability was found on any officer of IEBC. Of course, we did expect, and that's why I talked about outsourcing, we did expect that they were hoping that there will be criminal culpability found on particular officers who they are not
Who was hoping?
NASA, of course.
No, we never prayed
I'm talking about NASA. I'm talking, when I talk about they, I'm talking
the
about
petitioner,
NASA,
okay.
the petitioners. Therefore, they were hoping that maybe the Chilobas, the Buhatis, the Kasaites that they have been shouting about in funerals and in rallies would be indicted by the Supreme Court yesterday. The court did not do that. Therefore, what I would expect of them today is to adduce evidence to the DPP, like I would expect Jubilee as a political party or any other Kenyan to petition the DPP, as I said, to investigate whether the registrar to the Supreme Court did in any way fraudulently alter the report that was the judges in the majority relied on in court. Number two, from what Orengo said, and in view of their position and their interpretation of the Constitution as to whether President Uhuru Kenyatta will continue being in office, whether or not we have elections within 60 days. First, let me say we should not even be negotiating or even discussing or even contemplating a situation where there will be no elections. There must be elections within these 60 days, actually within the next 34, 35 or so days, because IEBC has already put a date. Unless IEBC, again, as an independent institution, in their own wisdom, find it wise maybe to move the date by a day or two, that again we should respect, and respect that institution as an independent institution. Just like as much as we never agreed with this circus of a judgment, but we respected it, let them also respect IEBC to give us a date, and we must have elections within those 60 days.
Okay.
Should there
Yeah.
be no elections, because they have told us without telling us how they intend to constitutionally stop elections from happening. But should there be no elections, we would expect that President Uhuru Kenyatta continues governing this country. We have parliament in place, we have a judiciary in place, therefore we would expect that that continues. But also, Hussein, let me just mention in passing that one of the most worrying things about the judgment yesterday, and what I think is Joy who alluded to it, and Steve here, the assertion by the Supreme Court that they would still do the same should another petition come. I am seen as being set up for failure in this country, and therefore that's why I agree with Joy that the threshold that has been put is probably a little too high for a country where, as Steve was saying in the break, that our political culture is not in tandem with the threshold that we are putting, the constitutional threshold that the Supreme Court is putting for us. Article 81 of the Constitution says that the electoral system shall comply with the following principles. It shall be free and fair elections, which are Amongst the issues, the qualitative issues that the Supreme Court dealt with yesterday is sub-article E5, administered in an impartial, neutral, efficient, accurate and accountable manner. The next area that we are being set up by Orengo, Kaluma and them is on E sub-article 2.
Free from violence, intimidation,
free from violence, intimidation, improper influence, or corruption. They may not corrupt people because the pay bill number doesn't have enough money to corrupt people, but free from violence and intimidation, that is where the country is being set up. It is my very considered opinion that indeed, when they talk about there shall be no elections in this country,
unless there are minimums.
Unless, you know, those conditionalities, we are being set up because you only need to instigate violence in one polling station. And therefore, you will move to court, the same Supreme Court, and tell Justice Maraga and the majority that these elections were not free from violence and intimidation.
Well, I'll come to you shortly.
And they will do what they promised us to do.
Okay, I'll come to you shortly, Ogola. But one question, Honorable Ishungwa, this question will also go to Kaluma. But I'll start with you. You're talking about, you're saying you agree with Kaluma and NASA generally that there should be investigations in IEBC, regardless of who they touch on, regardless of if it's a commissioner, whether it's a returning officer, presiding officer, or whatever. That's what you're saying, isn't it?
What I'm saying, Hussein,
whether it touches on the chairman or the CEO or another commissioner or a presiding officer in a certain polling station or a returning officer in a certain constituency.
Those are your words, not my words.
No, I'm asking. I'm asking you.
My assertion is this, pure and simple. If there was an irregularity in Mandera, for instance, a polling station in Mandera, it is a presiding officer. And I'll tell you, I've had instances, or rather assertions, that indeed there is a certain presiding officer somewhere in Mandera who, out of curiosity, decided to try out with the Kim's kit, whether with an empty, with a blank form, not knowing that once you send the blank form once, you cannot then send the results. Therefore, the DPP will need to investigate whether this particular presiding officer was doing that out of curiosity or with a criminal intent. And therefore, that's why I say we should not politicize this.
We should let the investigation take its course.
It is Chebukati,
Exactly.
it is Chiloba, it is Kasait, it is a presiding officer. Let the DPP, because the DPP's office, again, is another constitutional independent office that should not be working under directions from anybody. And that is just what, if Maraga doesn't want anybody to direct the courts, then he should also protect the DPP, he should protect IEBC from being directed, including attempts by NASA to use intimidation and violence to dictate to IEBC, to DPP, or any other person.
Hussein, there are two issues. One, concerning the people that should be held responsible for election mismanagement. That is a matter of course, and I know it's going to dominate the political campaigns because that is the nature of politics. But ordinarily, the election management body, in this case IEBC, is required after the conduct of every election to do an audit. And in their own audit, because they've been indicted in a very significant way, we can expect that they will make some changes, and even as they do the audit, the ODPP can, on his own motion, also begin also to try and investigate further.
What audit do you think people will trust? Internal audit or an external audit?
No, no, by law.
By law, they are required to do that.
Yes.
But after what has happened, would you be comfortable? Obviously, they'll have to do it. Would you want to also look at what DPP will investigate?
I think Kenyans rarely give credit to IEBC because look at the leaked memos. You can see a deliberate attempt by the commission through the chair to try and inspire public confidence by saying that I'm also demanding action, you see? So we can trust the audit. Let us not delegitimize IEBC audit before it comes out. But there's something that is, Mheshimiwa is also raising. Is it possible to have a shared and settled understanding on the electoral process? What happens next? The Constitution, especially Article 138(1), provides, I know in terms of the arrangement of provisions of the Constitution, the first provision has more value because it provides inspiration and perhaps direction on how you interpret the subsequent provisions. Article 138(1) provides, Hussein, that where there is only one candidate nominated for the presidential election, he shall be declared president. There could be different scenarios or circumstances why people don't want to participate in an election, but if that provision is to be activated in this election, then you can expect in law that Uhuru Kenyatta will be sworn in and there'll be no legal challenges. However, there may be political legitimacy issues, because if you have a critical mass that's supporting Raila, who have not been given an opportunity or have been excluded from participating, not going to election, Uhuru Kenyatta, if he concerns himself with legitimacy politics, as will happen if he is re-elected, assuming that he's re-elected, his second term, if he were to move there, would be significantly hampered because of the legitimacy issues. Therefore, it's the best interest of the country that we have a shared and settled approach. That's why I said IBC must capture, all the concerns raised by NASA and address them, so that NASA is encouraged to go to the election. In our constitution, we have 4 options. The presidential election has 4 options. The first option is Article 136, the general election. The president is elected there. If he's not elected in terms of the provisions of Article 138.3, then we go for a runoff under Article 138.5. The first 2. That's the second option. The third option is usually where someone has just died before being sworn in, or someone has under Article 138.8, there's a third option it's also called fresh election. Then we have this fresh election under Article 143. So all this tied together, they link in that key provision that says, should there be a crisis where only one candidate is available for election, he will be sworn in. You get?
Okay. But if I may just expound on what Stephen was saying, in this scenario, we have already jumped over the hurdle of nomination.
Yes.
So that means that President Uhuru Kenyatta was duly nominated as a Jubilee candidate. Honorable Raila was duly nominated as the ODM candidate. And we have what now Okuru is trying to get today to see if the other duly nominated candidates can also get in. Now, that tells me if IEBC goes ahead and organizes this election, and they have said that they're taking just Honorable Uhuru and Honorable Raila as being the ones in the running, the name of Honorable Raila will appear on the ballot paper, regardless of any extraneous pronouncements, simply because he was duly nominated and his name was presented to the IEBC, and after their scrutiny, they accepted that he was a candidate. So what will be the difference now is in terms of turnout, because if NASA go ahead with the way they are talking and then they insist that we are not going to participate, it is their voters who will not turn up, but the name will still appear on the ballot. So the scenario that Stephen is painting, where there's only one duly nominated candidate, is not our scenario right now, because right now we actually have more than 2 actually duly nominated candidates. What would happen therefore is that you'd have a high turnout for one candidate, a low turnout for another candidate, and the legitimacy of that particular election will still stand, because the IEBC is the only body that can organize an election. Okay. They're the only ones who can declare a result after the election. So the participation of the supporters or the candidates at this point is purely discretionary. It is you as an individual who can decide, I will go out to vote or I will not go out to vote.
Let me just clarify that. Just
very briefly, because we want to take some reaction. So
what I mean is this. If ODM, the party that nominated Raila, writes to IBC withdrawing that nomination, then IBC cannot organize an election. They should. Cannot organize an election because you'll have only one candidate duly nominated, as Jay is saying. However, if Raila protests in rallies and does not withdraw formally, then that election must happen because he's duly nominated and his nomination stands.
Okay. Kaluma is here. He's from NASA. Let's hear from
he should withdraw.
What their plan is.
They're not interested.
You're saying the problem with particularly the lawyers, I have no problem with Ichung'wah because he's not a lawyer, is that they are prescribing legal solutions to a political problem. I can tell you, if we don't have elections in 60 days, there will be a crisis of a type that I think we should begin thinking about and contemplating. My view, Hussein, is to, for once, thank a Jubilee member for agreeing that if there were illegalities, whoever is culpable should be dealt with. Yeah. Where we should go to is how many does this thing affect? Ichung'wah, 94 constituencies had fake Form 94Bs. That is 94 returning officers. If you look at the polling stations across the country, I can tell you it is massive. I will not go into the details. You need to go to the details of Judge Mwino. Yes. And I'll just read how many returning officers used forms which were fake, either because they did not have security features, they did not sign them, they did not stamp them, and those are the issues. Those are criminal, culpability issues. And my view is that whoever this goes to, let us have them out. The question that we should be asking, which you didn't ask Hussein, is between now and the 60 days we are talking about, which are now about 30 days.
25, actually.
Yes. Do we allow those who are culpable to still deal with elections? Or how do we deal with that?
We are getting to the crux of the matter. I'm coming to that discussion right after this. Let's get first very few reactions from Mwananchi in we begin with Nyeri County, where Martin Munene is standing by. Martin.
Yes, Hussein, you're getting us live from Nyeri County, like you said, along Kimathi Street. And a day after the full judgment was read by the Supreme Court, people feel, of course, that considering this is a Jubilee zone, people feel that the majority judgment wasn't fair. They still feel that the election was stolen by the Supreme Court. And many people here are saying that there is need for the Supreme Court or for the IEBC or whichever body will conduct the elections, which conducted the election, or whichever body can be able to order a recount of the votes should actually do so that people can actually know who won the election on August 8th. But also at the same time and on the same breath, people feel that the minority did the right thing, and they feel that that was the actual the thing that happened, and they feel that that should have been the majority judgment, and they should have maintained and held that President Uhuru Kenyatta was duly elected. And joining me here is one resident, a local leader, Mwangi Kiande, who is going to be giving us just a slight perspective briefly on what he thinks of the judgment yesterday. Kindly, if you may, and kindly look at the screen. What is your opinion and feeling about the full judgment that was read yesterday?
It's good that we accept the judgment as it was. But having said that, fidelity in law really does not mean that you agree with everything. I'm sure the dissenting voices had a lot to say, and if you go into the in-depth of it, you realize that I think there was no genuine reason to annul this election of President Uhuru Kenyatta. Suffice to say that if you go into the details and what the dissenting judges went through at length, you'd realize that there were many things that were overlooked, and had the majority tried to delve into this, I think the outcome would have been different. When you say that a process was not very good, and let me say with experience, I went through political life, and I know it is not easy to manage elections 100%. The flaws vis-a-vis what you entail as you conduct an election, to get the threshold to say that you can annul an election, I think that didn't merit for this particular election of 2017. And I think Kenyans, even if we are not lawyers, we are not judges, it is easy to make and deduce from the process of the whole judgment that a lot of things were not dearly interrogated to the very end.
All right. And maybe briefly on a different matter, especially after the judgment yesterday, do you feel that the IEBC as it is able to conduct a free and fair election?
Precisely, yes, because IEBC is an institution, an independent one, and from the majority, of course, nobody was found capable of any wrongdoing. And IBC, as it stands, in fact, they enumerated that only a few challenges here, administrative challenges. So it is incumbent that anybody of goodwill should allow and give IBC a chance to conduct the elections of the repeated elections, as it were, because anybody else, I doubt who else would do it better than IBC.
All right, thank you very much. All right, that basically summarizes the feeling here on the ground. A lot of people feeling that the judgment was wrong, and a lot maintaining that they have faith in the IEBC to conduct a repeat poll. But they're insisting, many people here actually insisting, that there is need for the boxes to be opened, that there be a clear indication of who actually won on the August 8th election. And Hussein, we're going to be keeping you up to date and up to speed with what is happening here in Nyeri County. Back to you in studio. I am Martin Munene from Nyeri County.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you for that update. Let's cross over now to Mombasa County. Asha Bikidusa is standing by. Asha. Okay, I can hear you. Asha, can you hear me now then?
Very good morning to you here. I'm coming to you live from Mombasa, and I'll be joined by residents of Mombasa who will be giving me their reaction and their feelings concerning the yesterday the full judgment by the Supreme Court. And right now I'm joined by one of the residents who will tell me how he feels. Na anza kwa majina yako na utuambie uamuzi ule wa mahakama kwa kina jana ulipokelea vipi kama mkazi wa Mombasa?
Mimi naitwa Stefan Tite, na uamuzi wangu, Maraga alifanya uamuzi wa haki na kweli. Wale majaji wawili walienda kinyume na uamuzi wa masheria, lakini Maraga alifanya uamuzi wa haki kabisa wale wawili. Asante.
Na bila shaka tutakuwa tunajiunga na mkazi mwingine, na tueleze majina yako na uamuzi ule wa mahakama kwa kina jana ulipokeaje kama mkazi?
Mimi kitu ambacho naweza nikasema ni kwamba mimi naitwa Frank Moshigadi. Kitu ambacho naweza sema ni kwamba Maraga alitoa uamuzi, lakini kitu ambacho alitukanganya nacho ni kwamba kama alijua tayari kulikuwa na makosa na hajui ni kina nani walikosea, angesema wakati alikuwa anatoa ule uamuzi wa kwanza, tukajua vile IBC ikajua vile ingefanya na rais angesema tayari nani ameshinda. Sasa kuonyesha kwamba Uhuru tayari alikuwa yeye mshindi, maana alipata makosa na hakuna hajui nani aliyekosea, lakini makosa ilipatikana. Angetaja mwenye amekosa makosa ili aondolewe katika IBC, ama kuwe na sira kwamba apate kuondoka.
Tutakuwa tunajiunga na mkazi mwingine. Tuambie majina yako na ulipokea vipi uamuzi wa mahakama hapo jana?
Kwa majina naitwa Samuel Ojwang. Mimi ni mkaji hapa Mombasa. Tumefurahi kutoka ile uamuzi wa kwanza jinsi Maraga alikuwa ametoa uamuzi, na hata uamuzi wa pili tulifurahia kwa sababu alituonyesha kwa kina sana yale makosa ambayo yalitokea. Na sisi pia imekuwa ni funzo kwetu, na hata tulikuwa tunatamani pia IBC ikaweze kuwa inaweza shika hiyo mkondo tunaweza kuwa tunaelekea mahali pazuri, kwa sababu saa hii Maraga ametuweka katika usalama, kulikuwa na tension na saa hizi kumetulia, tukingoja tena saa hii tuende kwa uchaguzi wa haki na uhuru. Ni hayo tu na Mungu.
Asante sana. Tutakuwa tunajiunga majina yako na uamuzi wa mahakama jana kwa kina ulipokea.
Kwa majina naitwa Robert Kazungu. Mimi uamuzi wa jana kwa kweli ulinivunja moyo sana, kwa sababu kulingana na kwamba vile kesi imeamuliwa hali ya kwamba utaamua vipi kesi wakati hujui ni nani alifanya makosa. Hakuna mmoja kati ya either IBC ama Jubilee labda aseme makosa ilipatikana hapa na hapa ndio tujue wazi makosa ilitoka wapi, lakini makosa jaji mwenyewe hawezi jua ilitoka wapi. Nataka kutuambia ni nani amefanya makosa. Kwa hivyo sisi watu wa Jubilee tumevunjwa moyo na uamuzi wa jana.
Na tunajiunga na mkazi majina yako na hisia kuhusiana na uamuzi wa kina jana wa mahakama.
Mimi naitwa Jafeth Musio Kindunda. Jana nilikaa makini sana nikisikiza hawa majaji wetu, na walitoa maamuzi mazuri sana sana hawa wanne, lakini vile mwenzangu amesema tumechanganywa sana, sababu wangetuambia aswa ni idara ipi exactly wamekosea, ndio naye Chebukati aweze kujua atajirekebisha vipi. Lakini naye vile kiongozi wetu wa NASA Orengo, lawyer wetu, alisema wataenda kwa Tobiko na wana ushahidi wa kutosha, alafu watajua vizuri sana nani watashtaki, ndipo sasa twende tujue vile tutafanya. Asante sana.
as you've had mixed reaction there from residents of Mombasa, although some of them are saying that they are a bit confused because they didn't know how or why it happened, who was at mistake or who did the mistake concerning the IEBC matter, and they don't know if whether IEBC was wrong or not, and maybe they wanted a bit of clarification there from the Supreme Court. And now I'm handing you over to studio in Nairobi.
Thank you so much, Asha Bekidusa in Mombasa County. Finally, let's cross over to Eldoret, Uasin Gishu County. John Wanyama is standing by. John.
Thank you very much, Hussein. As you've said, I'm in Eldoret town here in Uasin Gishu County. And residents also here have their different and mixed reactions on the longest ever that Kenya witnessed yesterday, the ruling that took almost 12 hours. And thanks to Citizen TV also, because residents here tried to watch and to follow up with the proceedings yesterday. But as you can remember, Hussein, it took long and residents could not manage to hold on to watch until the last minute when it was being read. But thanks to you, Hussein, and other people in Citizen TV who managed and ensured that they break down what were judges saying and the terminologies they were using. Hussein, you remember you are also trying to break down for residents to understand what really this ruling meant. Hussein, let's talk to residents here to tell us their reactions and what do they feel about yesterday's ruling. Mzee, tukianza na wewe, pengine uamuzi jana wa koti, wewe uliupokeaje na kama uliona hiyo uamuzi jana?
One thing I'm not satisfied about it, but we agree that we are going to the polls. So everything should stop. The demonstrations should stop. People should go and build the nation instead of wasting their time demonstrating. Let's go to the ballot, and the results will tell us who is the winner. That's what I've got to say.
Mimi kwa majina naitwa Joel Sang, mkaaji wa Uasin Gishu. Nashukuru kwanza watu wa Uasin Gishu kuweka amani. Alafu jambo la pili, mambo ya uamuzi ya jana ya Jaji Mkuu David Maraga, tunakushukuru kwamba koti inasimama katika sheria na tunakubali kwamba isihuchumie vyovyote na mambo ya kura ama mambo ya politics, kwamba idara ya mahakama isimamie sheria na iamue ukweli. Kwa hivyo mambo ya jana niliona ilikuwa vyema kwangu, na tunangojea tu siku ile ambayo imepangwa na IEBC tuingie tena katika kura.
Yesterday's ruling by the Supreme Court actually was a landmark ruling in the sense that it gave us the true picture of what happened in the last elections. One is that there were so many anomalies, and which were detected by the judges because of the presentation of the lawyers, and the ruling was really, watertight, the way I'm seeing. People have their own views, yes, but if you see what they said, going through by a tooth comb, it gave us the insight of what really transpired. And it's a very important, it's a milestone in the sense that it will teach our people to respect the law. And as we move forward, for this country to remain stable, we need always to respect the rule of law. As we always have in our national anthem, that let peace, let justice be our shield and defender. Let's stick to that, because at least it will give us a guide. It will also ensure that when we have any problems when we have any disputes, the right place for arbitration, which is going to give us a true picture and the true direction, is the courts. But now, when we have some of our brothers condemning the charges, condemning the people who are involved in this kind of judicial process, that is not right, and it's taking us the wrong direction, because part of to strengthen our democratic ideals is always to have the courts, because that's one of the great pillars of the Constitution. And there's no way you will operate without the courts, because we shall always have disagreements, and we have somebody to arbitrate over them, and that is the court. Thank you.
Thank you. My last person here, Hussein.
My name is Collins. I'm happy because as the court ruled, and it maintained the initial ruling, and now we can know that the truth will come out. I'm happy the country is moving to the right direction, because the rule of law has to be respected, and I believe there's no one who is above the law. as the Supreme Court ruled that nullified the election of the president, I think it was the right thing, because from the proceedings we had in court earlier, we realized that there were a lot of anomalies and the president was not duly elected.
Okay. Thank you very much, Hussein. Those are some of views from residents here in Eldoret. And something they are also saying is that they are also begging that one day, maybe in the near future, that the two leaders, that is President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Amolo Odinga, that they come together, talk and understand and go to election as it has been planned by the court, so that they cannot take this country to a constitutional crisis. And also yesterday, Hussein, you remember the judges had their day. Today onwards, we'll see also politicians having their day, saying here and there. But the final person on this matter is that citizen, that Kenyan, who will be going to ballot to ensure that he choose whoever he wants to choose again. Hussein.
Thank you so much, John Wanyama, joining us from Eldoret. We're taking a short break now on Citizen Extra. Keep talking to us. The hashtag on Twitter is Citizen Extra. Our discussion continues after this break.